The Silver Rust Inn, written by her screams. The drive was supposed to be easy. I had been feeling restless for a while. Even though my travel blog was doing well, traveling and writing had become repetitive, and I felt like I was just going through the motions. I missed the thrill of finding new places and the sense of adventure that made me start the blog in the first place. Lately, everything felt forced, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something important. I remembered when every trip felt like a real adventure, like the time I found a hidden village in the mountains, or met a kind stranger who showed me a secret spot only locals knew about. Those moments used to fill me with excitement, but now everything felt dull. I needed something to remind me why I love traveling, like when I found that hidden waterfall in Oregon or camped under the stars in the desert. I wanted that feeling of wonder again. Driving from Chicago to Denver was supposed to help clear my mind. But as the miles went by, everything looked the same. Flat farmland that stretched forever. The monotony of the endless road was almost hypnotic, and I still felt lost and uninspired. It was like I was running away from something but didn't know what. And nothing I found along the way seemed to fill the emptiness. Then I found Council Bluffs. It felt different. Almost like I was meant to stop there. The streets were unusually empty, and the buildings looked old and forgotten, like time had stopped. There was an eerie stillness in the air that made me shiver, like something was watching me from the shadows. Council Bluffs was on the border between Iowa and Nebraska, next to the Missouri River. It had a simple charm, a gas station, an old diner that looked like it was from the 1950s, and a small church. Something about it made me curious, like there was more beneath the surface waiting to be discovered. The motel I found was called the Silver Rust Inn, and it was right off the main road and looked old and run down. The paint was peeling, and the old neon sign flickered as the sun started to set. Casting long shadows, it was the kind of place people only used to sleep before moving on, and I figured it would be good enough for 3 nights. As I parked my car, I felt the temperature drop suddenly, and I thought I heard a faint creaking sound, like an old door swinging in the wind. It made me uneasy. The air felt heavy, like a storm was coming, and my stomach twisted with worry. I tried to ignore it and grab my bag, heading into the front office. The room smelled like dust and something metallic that I couldn't quite place. Behind the counter was an old man with tired eyes. He nodded at me and spoke in a rough voice. "Need a room?" he asked. "Yeah, for 3 nights, please," I said, smiling, even though I felt a bit uncomfortable. He hesitated for a moment, then handed me an old key with a wooden tag. "Room 7, he said. He paused, looking serious. "There are a few rules you need to follow." I raised an eyebrow. "Rules?" He nodded and pushed a small, yellow piece of paper across the counter. The ink was smudged like it had been written a long time ago. "It's nothing too serious," he said, but I could hear the unease in his voice. "Just things to keep in mind." I took the note and looked at it. It had 5 rules. Always close the bathroom door before sleeping, even if the light is off. Do not open the window after 10 p.m., even if it gets hot. If you hear knocking, check the peephole first. Do not open the door if no one is there. At midnight, place a cup of water on the nightstand and do not drink it. On your last night, leave a coin on the bedside table before you go to bed. A shiver ran through me. "Is this some kind of local superstition?" I asked, trying to sound amused, though my voice was shaky. The old man's smile faded, and he looked at me seriously. "Just follow the rules. Room 7, it's different." I wanted to ask more, but the way he looked at me made me stop. Instead, I nodded and took the key and the note. "Okay, I'll follow them," I said, trying to sound casual. The room was at the far end of the motel, and the door looked worn from years of use. I turned the key in the lock, and the door opened with a heavy click. The room was what I expected: a bed with an old floral bedspread, a small wooden table, and a bathroom with a chipped mirror. The air was a bit stale, so I walked over to the window and pulled the curtains aside to let in some fresh air. Outside, everything was quiet, with only the sound of leaves rustling in the breeze. I looked at the note again, feeling a strange sense of worry. It was just a room, I told myself. I had stayed in plenty of rooms like this. But I couldn't shake the look in the old man's eyes. It was like he was warning me. The air felt heavy, and I could swear I heard a faint rustle, like something moving in the shadows, making my skin prickle. The first night, I ignored the rules. I left the bathroom door slightly open, even though I felt a shiver telling me I shouldn't. What harm could it cause? I got ready for bed, feeling exhausted from the long drive. The bed was surprisingly comfortable, and as I lay there, I couldn't help but think about the strange rules. The unease lingered, making it hard to fully relax. Eventually, exhaustion took over and I fell asleep. I woke up at 3 a.m. The room was dark, but something felt wrong. The air was damp, like just before a storm. I looked at the bathroom and my heart skipped a beat. The door, which I had left partly open, was now wide open. The darkness inside seemed to move, almost like it was alive. My heart started to race, and then I heard it, a deep growl coming from the bathroom, like an animal in pain. Fear took over, and I forced myself to move. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, the floor cold beneath my feet. I crept toward the bathroom, my heart pounding in my ears. The growl stopped as soon as I touched the door, and I quickly pushed it shut, locking it. I stood there, breathing hard, waiting for any other sound. But the room was silent again, and slowly the damp feeling in the air went away. I climbed back into bed, pulling the covers tightly around me, keeping my eyes on the bathroom door until I finally fell asleep. My dreams were uneasy, filled with fleeting images of shadows moving across the walls and whispering voices I couldn't understand. Every time I thought I was about to make out the words, I would wake up in a sweat, only to find the room quiet and still. The next morning, I tried to shake off the fear from the night before. Maybe I hadn't closed the door properly, and the strange growl could have just been the wind or old pipes. I didn't want to think too much about it, so I spent the day exploring. I took pictures of the Union Pacific Railroad Museum, the old squirrel cage jail, and the Missouri River. The town was quiet and had a sort of eerie beauty to it. People were polite but not very friendly, and they seemed to look at me strangely when I mentioned the motel. "You're staying at the Silver Rest Inn?" The waitress at the diner asked, her smile fading. "Yeah," I said, trying to act normal. "Why? Is there something I should know?" She hesitated, then looked around like she wanted to make sure no one else heard. "Just follow the rules," she said quietly. "People who don't, well, they're never found again." A shiver ran through me. Something about the way she said it made me feel like I was already in danger, like there was some dark secret everyone in the town knew but wouldn't share with outsiders. That night, back in room 7, I made sure to follow the first rule. I closed the bathroom door firmly before getting into bed. I looked over the list again, my eyes lingering on the second rule. Do not open the window after 10 p.m., even if it gets hot. The room felt stuffy. The air conditioner rattled, but it wasn't doing much to cool the room. By 11 p.m., I was sweating and my shirt stuck to my skin. I knew what the note said, but no matter how hard I tried, I felt like I couldn't breathe. Like something was very wrong with my throat. I walked over to the window and opened it, letting the cool night air in. The breeze felt amazing, and I sighed with relief. But then I heard it, footsteps on the gravel outside the door, slow and deliberate. My whole body tensed up. The footsteps got louder, and then there was a soft knock at the door. Then another, louder this time, like whoever it was wanted to be let in. My heart pounded. As I crept towards the door, my eyes on the peephole, I looked through the peephole, but there was nothing. The knocking continued, getting louder and louder, echoing in the small room. I backed away, my gaze darting to the open window. The curtains moved with the breeze, and I rushed over to close the window. As soon as it was shut, the knocking stopped. The silence that followed was almost scarier than the knocking. My hands were shaking, and I stood there, trying to make sense of it. There had been no one there, but the knocking and footsteps were real. I rushed to close the window, but it was like something invisible was pushing against it. I struggled with all my strength, my breath coming in ragged gasps, until finally, with a surge of effort, I managed to close it. Suddenly, the bathroom door burst open, and what seemed like an obscure creature on four legs. It looked like a twisted, shadowy animal. Its body was long and skeletal, with jagged, bony legs that ended in sharp, claw-like points. Its face was featureless, a black void that seemed to absorb the light around it. My heart stopped as it came at me, and I closed my eyes, bracing for impact. But then, nothing. The sudden silence was deafening, as if the entire room had been swallowed by emptiness. I felt a strange, hollow stillness, like the world had just vanished.